If your church has ever taught on spiritual gifts, please raise your hand. Probably not a lot of you, but we're going to talk about it today. I'm going to give you a very brief overview, and if you want to dive deeper into one certain thing, let me know. Before I even start talking about gifts of the Spirit, I'm going to address that in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, in the first few verses, it talks about you can be speaking tongues, you can have the gift of prophecy, but if you don't have love, all of that means nothing. We are first and foremost called to love people. And when we can do that, that's when the gifts of the Spirit will come. Because the gifts of the Spirit are for service. All right, this is going to be a lot of information, so you may want to save this video so you can write it down in your notes. I'm going to bust it up into two categories to keep it simple. First group we're going to categorize things in is the ministry gifts of the church. I'm going to list those here. The second group of gifts we're going to put into a category is the manifestation of the Holy Spirit through believers. I'm going to list those here. Okay, so the first group we talked about was ministry gifts of the church. That includes the fivefold ministry, which is the pastor, teacher, evangelist, prophet, and apostle. Probably not in that order, but those are the five. Very quickly, we're going to talk about what all of those things are. An apostle's office of apostle is to make sure the church is running in order, that they are sticking with the original gospel. A prophet is somebody who hears from the Lord and gives messages to the church. Now, there's a difference in being a prophet and having the gift of prophecy. We'll get into that later. Evangelists are the ones that are passionate about winning souls. Pastors are the overseers of the church. Teachers are pretty self-explanatory. But I believe in fivefold ministry. I believe that pastors were not meant to carry the entire load on themselves. I think that's why pastors are getting burned out so easy. I think that's why some of them are doing things to themselves they shouldn't. I can't say the word on here. Use your imagination. They're overwhelmed, and they were never meant to carry this entire load by themselves. They were supposed to have people around them to help them, in my opinion. There's some other gifts in the ministry of the church, but we won't get into those for time's sake in this video. Now, your manifestations through individual believers through the Holy Spirit. We're going to hit some of those. So the first one I want to talk about is words of knowledge. And I've personally experienced this gift, and it is amazing. Basically, the Holy Spirit just reveals information to you about people in order for you to pray for them, to speak life into them, to be encouraging to them. Discerning of spirits is also a gift of the Spirit, and that one, a lot of you probably already have a little bit of it, and the Lord is wanting to grow that. There's some of you that's probably like, yeah, when I get around somebody, I can just feel that like something's wrong or something's off. You've got the gift of discerning of spirits. The last one I'm going to talk about, because this is getting long, is the gift of prophecy. Gift of prophecy is a temporary ability to give somebody a word of revelation, a word of exhortation, a word from the Lord. Like I said, it's different than holding the office of a prophet. Talk about that later. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 31, I think it's Paul, he says we are to desire the gifts. We are to desire these gifts of the Spirit in order to serve the world and to do the work of the Lord. They are to empower us to do kingdom work. There's so much more I could get into. If you have any specific questions, let me know, and I'd love to deep dive into some of these. But this is just a brief overview.